So we've talked about a universalizing religion. Let's talk about ethnic religions. And these are tied to specific groups. Okay? They are shut off from outsiders. So yes, in a universalizing religion, we might have a Croatian church or a church where it's mostly people from El Salvador. It might be the Greek Orthodox Church. So yes, those are ethnicities. But I can walk into any of those churches and I can join and participate. It might be a little unusual. I might not always understand the language, but if I'm a Christian, I can go to those churches and participate, right? Because they accept anyone. And even if you aren't Christian, you can walk in and you can participate. In an ethnic religion, that is not the case because it is tied only to a specific group of people. And it is tied to their identity and their history in a way that a universalizing religion is not. So an ethnic religion is tied very closely to a tribal group, a nation, and in some cases an ethnicity. But think indigenous people. With an ethnic religion, we're talking about the original inhabitants of a place. So Native American religions, those are ethnic religions. The religion that the Aboriginal people, the Aborigines in Australia follow, that is an ethnic religion. So it's very closely tied with a group that has a separate identity, and outsiders are not welcome. The holy sites in this case are usually based on natural landmarks that are central to the religion, maybe that is seen as a deity, like a river or a mountain or the ocean, or that is sacred to one of those gods. So that's what the holy sites are. They're tied to nature and they might be divine in and of themselves. And usually the people in an ethnic religion have to remain near those sites. If you move somewhere else, you're no longer are tied to that location. You are moving away from where those religious sacred sites are. And so that can be very difficult for someone who follows an ethnic religion. The holy days, the festivals, right, the things that you do to celebrate the religion, those are usually tied to the harvest or to the cycle of the seasons. Maybe that they celebrate and have a festival on the first day of spring or on the longest day of the year. Those are the kinds of things, and they might have a harvest festival. So that's very different than in a universalizing religion where the holy days are based on the founder's life. And again, in an ethnic religion, you have to be born into it. And an ethnic religion does not seek converts. The religion takes the stance that it is only for some people. It is only for them. And outsiders are not welcome. And again, tied to a very specific tribe or national group. So I've already named a few, right? Native religions, indigenous religions, those are ethnic religions. Hinduism is the world's largest ethnic religion. Hinduism is a very complex set of beliefs, but one of the central tenets is a cycle of reincarnation and rebirth. And if you aren't born into that cycle of reincarnation and rebirth, it's really difficult to hop in. And so people really can't convert to Hinduism. You have to be born into it. And that's an ethnic religion. So is the fact that rivers, like say the Ganges, is actually seen as a goddess. Right? So the natural feature is the sacred thing. It is seen as divine. So that is an example of a holy site in an ethnic religion. Other examples are Shintoism, for example, in Japan. Also, Judaism is an ethnic religion. And Judaism can be a little bit difficult to classify, but it qualifies as an ethnic religion because it is tied to the Jewish ethnicity, which is a separate identity and thing. The High holy days are tied to the lunar calendar and to the cycle of the harvest, and it is actually quite difficult to convert to Judaism. They do not proselytize, they do not go out and spread their message. So all of those things make it an ethnic religion. So let me know what questions you have about that. A couple more thoughts about religion and the patterns that they make. Pilgrimage is another really important idea in religion, and both universalizing religions and ethnic religions have pilgrimages. A pilgrimage is a journey. That journey is often long and challenging, and that focus, the journey, is going to a sacred place of some kind as an act of religious devotion, religious faith, proving your faith to God, those kinds of ideas, right? Renewing your faith. So a pilgrimage is a journey with a religious focus, a devotional focus. And like I said, both universalizing religions have them and ethnic religions have them. But you can see more about the differences between ethnic and universalizing religions by looking at the places that people tend to go on pilgrimage. So here are examples of pilgrimages and universalizing religions. This is a picture of the Hajj, which is the sacred pilgrimage in Islam. This is the Kaaba. It is a temple that is in the middle of a mosque, in the middle of the city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia. That is the most sacred building in the most sacred mosque, in the most sacred city. Right? So they're going to a built location. This is a trail of pilgrimage in Spain. And people go to a variety of different churches where important events have happened and where miracles have occurred. And this, of course, is a picture of the Canterbury Tales. So there have been a variety of different pilgrimages, and they still go on today. And that is the kind of places that a universalizing religion would go to, where important events have happened. Right? This is seen, the Kaaba is seen as the place where Islam began. Ethnic religions also have pilgrimages, but here they're going to, for example, a river. This is the Ganges River. This is the city of Varanasi. And you can see all the people are coming down to the river to pray, to be baptized, to bathe in the water would be a better way to say it, and wash their sins away and commune with the goddess, because where they're going is the river, which is seen as the sacred space. Here is a picture of pilgrims going up Mount Fuji, which is seen as a sacred space. And so these are examples of pilgrimages in an ethnic religion. They are going to physical landmarks that may be divine. Okay, either way, whether we are talking about a universalizing religion or an ethnic religion, both of them create spatial patterns. Both of them have an impact on the cultural landscape, which we'll talk about in the Zooms and in just a minute. Okay? And we will trace those patterns, those spatial patterns, the relationships people have with the environment, the things that they build, right? Who they include, who they exclude, all of those things are spatial patterns. We will trace them all semester long. Let's switch to talk about language just for a minute. Language is the other key defining trait of culture, along with religion, really important for identity and the way people see each other. There is a resource in Module A that talks about the language patterns that we will use, the terms we're going to use, and it has a tree, a language tree that shows the way that language is developed. So I encourage you to read that, to look that over, and get the ideas and the terms situated in your head so that as we start talking about language, you'll see the patterns more easily. The other piece of culture that is really important in this class is how culture is expressed on the landscape. Okay? The landscape is the stuff that surrounds you. It's the environment. So the physical world is part of the landscape, but also the things we build are part of the landscape. And the cultural landscape is the things we build to express ourselves. Okay? So maybe we build temples, maybe we build churches, maybe we put our houses on stilts because it floods here. Maybe we build our houses out of mud and adobe because we don't have very much wood. Okay? So the physical environment is shaping how people build their houses. People have learned and adapted to that environment and come up with cultural expression. So that combination of things, the things that we've learned about the environment and then the things that we build in that environment, that is cultural landscape. And cultural landscape varies from place to place. We will talk about that in the Zoom sessions. This is one of those really important pieces of the class because this is what makes a place place. This is why regions vary, because different cultures are in these places and they express themselves in different ways. And this is one of my favorite things to talk about because it helps us understand the world and why it looks this way. Why did they build these walls in Ireland? Each one of these pictures here is a different form of agriculture. This is a different kind of culture, and it creates a very different look to all of these places. But we can look at them and say, well, this looks like might be Ireland. This is a city, right? This is an urban, maybe a community garden. This looks like it might be in the Midwest of the United States with kind of the more industrialized farming. And this looks like, oh, that's probably somewhere in Asia where they have a whole bunch of hills and they've actually carved out platforms, right? So that they can increase the amount of flat land to farm on. Each one of those is a piece of culture that people have learned, people have figured out, and then it changes the look of a place. So very briefly, and again, we're going to talk more about this in the Zooms, cultural landscape is the things that people build or the way they modify their environment. It reflects the values and the beliefs and the technology that people have. Do they think nature is there to be used, or is it something that should be preserved and protected? So the way we treat that landscape, the way we build it, also reflects our non-material culture, not just our material culture. It often allows people to see evidence of past settlement on the landscape. We can see who used to live there by the things that they built, how they built them, and what they called them. So all of these things are pieces of cultural landscape. One last thought about culture, and it's what I like to call the ick factor. We are going to be encountering different groups that you may not have encountered before, and different beliefs and different approaches and different ideas. And it's important that we not kind of have that kind of innate human reaction sometimes to go, ooh, that's different, that's weird, right? That isn't the way we do things. I don't know about that. But it's important that we keep an open mind about these things, because the only way we're going to understand each other and do a better job in the world and working with each other is to get past that ick factor, right? So like this, right? Those are scorpions on a stick. And they are a really popular street food in many parts of Asia. Now, I have to admit, I'm not going to rush right out and get a scorpion on a stick. I understand that they're very high in protein. They apparently taste a lot like chicken and have a really nice crunch. They're also incredibly environmentally conscious. It's really easy to grow them quickly. They don't produce a lot of waste products and methane like, say, cows do. They are very environmentally sustainable. We should all be eating more insects. High protein, low environmental cost. That's great. I'm not terribly interested in eating a scorpion. Okay? That's not the culture I was raised in. But just like there are many of us who looked at that and went, yeah, right? Not for me. At the same time, there's also people in the world that would look at this picture of McDonald's foods that, not a lot of nutritional value there, right? And the fact that we turn them into puppets to appeal to our children, that would disgust people too, right? So it's all a matter of perception, and we need to be careful that our immediate reaction isn't shutting us off from learning about other things. Okay? It's just different traditions, different values, and different beliefs, different cultures. Okay? These are all ideas of beauty from different parts of the world. How did that get the idea of beauty? Well, we can talk about that later, but this is a Maori woman, right? This is a Muslim woman, and this is a woman who had her feet bound in China. Okay? Different cultures, different traditions, different